Greetings, everyone, and welcome to CERN for Dummies. Hopefully, you're not offended because it's just a coined term from all those famous dummy books. This is not for dummies. As a matter of fact, this is very advanced. So, hopefully, you can keep up and follow along. I am going to get you up to speed on all the physics behind CERN, what they're really up to, the classified version, and oh boy. Let's just get ready to rock and roll and get you up to speed. Because guess what? CERN has discovered a third field of physics. As a matter of fact, we've actually known about this for many, many years. This paper is copyrighted in 1999, where I discovered the third field of physics, which they have hidden from the public to keep you in the dark, just like free energy and everything else. I am going to be reading, and from my paper, there are about 26 diagrams, so please don't get bored. For the first about 5 minutes, I'll be reading from my paper, and then we're going to dive into all the different diagrams. My paper is called The Throne of God because in the book of Revelation, the Bible is full of physics. That's why I call this aka physics of the Bible. There is a ton of physics in the Bible. It's just people back then didn't know how to explain it. When God revealed to them the truths of the universe, they had no way to describe it. They just did the best job they could back then. Even today, it's hard to explain. So this is called the Throne of God, which elucidates the theory of everything and fulfills Albert Einstein's unification theory, now explained by the theory of harmony by Byron Preston. That's me. Oh boy, I don't want to bore you so quickly. I just want to grab you, so let's get started. Basically, yeah, just stick with me, folks, for a couple minutes here, and then we're going to be getting into all these crazy diagrams. So, anyway, let me give you something to look at. This is the second theory that we're going to be discussing later on, which is, oh, this is mind-boggling. So, anyway, Albert Einstein passed away with the notes to his unification theory on his desk at Princeton University. He's working on unifying all the forces of the universe. Everything that we can see and experience in this world can be explained by the four forces. The strong nuclear force, represented here. The weak nuclear force, represented here. The electromagnetic, represented here. And gravity, represented here. Each of these forces is a special field of study in the world of physics. The problem is that each field has different theories and that by themselves are perfectly sound. The problem arises when one tries to unify them. Working within a four-dimensional universe, height, width, depth, and time, science has not found an acceptable way to unify the four forces. Einstein, like most of us, concluded that these four forces must have an origin point. After all, the four forces can't just enter our universe out of nothing. And further, they just can't enter from four different directions originating out of nothing. The logical conclusion is that these four forces must have an origin point from within our universe. However, M3 did a pretty good job of trying to do that. Unfortunately, Einstein could never arrange these four forces in a manner that would unify them and find an origin point. Let's take a look at the Bible for some expanded ways to view the universe. In the book of John, chapter 14, verse 2, Jesus says, quote, "In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you," unquote. All quotes from the Bible are from the King James Version of the Bible. Theologians would interpret mansions as literally meaning, quote, dwelling places, unquote. They would further state that a better translation is, quote, rooms, unquote, conveying the idea that there's ample space in heaven for all who come to Jesus as Savior. Or could this be a hint at a deeper spiritual truth? Of course. Let's look at the four-dimensional universe that we live in as a room. All the mathematical and physical equations represent furniture. For example, 2 plus 2 equals 4 would be a chair. Geometry is a couch. The laws of gravity is a dining room table. E equals mc squared, refrigerator, etc., etc., etc. Einstein and others insisted that all the laws of the universe, which are equations, or furniture, for example, must fit in a four-dimensional universe or room, for our example. The problem is that there was and still is enough furniture for an entire mansion. So Einstein and others went about trying to cram all this furniture for a mansion into a room. First, they tried standing the couch up on its side against the wall, then put a coffee table on its side, the refrigerator in a corner, with chairs on top of it. Oh boy, until they ran out of room and they just kept insisting it must all fit. They try again and again, only different arrangements, a different order, only to fail every single time. If you've ever put your furniture into storage, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The problem is that the furniture only looks natural when it is laid out in a house. You might be able to cram it all into a storage unit. You might be able to cram it all into a storage unit, but it's only natural that I'm sorry, let me start over. You might be able to cram it all into a storage unit, but it is not natural that way, nor is it functional. When it comes to cramming all the laws of physics into a tiny room, not only would it be unnatural, but the physicists could not even get it to all fit. It's easy to take furniture from just one room in a mansion and cram it into a studio apartment. It would be impossible to fit all the furniture of a mansion into a storage unit the size of a studio apartment. Logical, isn't it? Makes sense. It's simple to take just gravity and fit it into a four-dimensional universe, or to only squeeze the laws of quantum physics into it. There just isn't enough room in a four-dimensional universe to fit all the laws of physics into it. Einstein, one of the greatest minds, as they say, of all time, tried time and time and time again, but he could never ever get it to fit. In fact, Albert Einstein spent the last 30 years of his life trying to unify the four forces, and he died trying. Einstein, passing on, made the theories he was working on available to others to examine and bring new ideas to the table. Of course, Einstein was right in concept. The problem was the parameters to his hypothesis. Once you knocked down the parameters that he was trying to work within a four-dimensional unification of the forces could begin to take shape. Now there were enough rooms, in other words, a mansion. Instead of insisting that all the laws of physics had to fit into a universe that we could see, touch, hear, smell, and taste, there could be other dimensions that we're unable to perceive. By having a hypothesis that there are no limitations, we began an era of new theoretical physicists. This new field was called string theory. It showed great promise at unifying the four forces and all the laws of physics. However, it ran into some problems and pretty much faded away, almost, until it had a rebirth called supersymmetry. What's the difference, you ask? Well, both these theories have pretty much faded away, so that's just something you're going to have to research on your own. For now, let's focus on the important issues. We still need to discuss string and supersymmetry theory in order to get you up to M3, in order to move on to the 25 diagrams, where I'm going to catch you up to speed on what CERN is doing. Even going to the layout of Washington, D.C. I'm going to explain to you why the 33 degree in Freemasons is so important. Matter of fact, you are looking at the most sacred geometry and all the Freemason symbols, the Illuminati and everything right in front of your eyes. And I'm going to explain it all to you. But first, I have to get you up to speed. You can't just hop on a bike and just start riding it. You might need some training wheels. So let's move along. String and supersymmetry theories both prove in theory that the four forces and all the laws of physics begin to unify with a six-string theory. In other words, with the existence of six dimensions. The biggest problem was that there wasn't an origin point with a six-dimensional model. As the dimensions were increased and broadened, they found that all the furniture fit in a 10-dimensional universe. Wow! Along with the elusive origin point. At last, scientists had their long sought after theory that unified all the four forces, laws of physics, and found the origin point of it all. For our example, they now had enough rooms to fit all the furniture of a mansion into it. Problem, you ask? Yeah, there's a problem. Now that we've broken through the limitations of limited thinking, we no longer have to call the white coats, throw you up in a psychiatric ward, say you're hallucinating, you need to be medicated on drugs, and throw you in a padded room where you can't talk to anybody. For the first time, we were actually allowed to say, hey, there's dimensions, there's things you can't see. What a concept. Wow. Mind-boggling. Whoo-wee. Anyway, so they expanded the parameters of the universe to a 10-dimensional universe. Well, since they didn't lock anybody up in a psychiatric ward, they said, why stop there? The theoretical physicists continue to expand the universe. 11, 12, 15, 19, 20, 24, 25. Oh my gosh. But after 10 dimensions, the equations completely fell apart until the 26th dimension. All the equations came back together again. At this point, it appeared that there must be exactly 10 or 26 dimensions. Why stop there, you ask? The white coats didn't come. They didn't lock anybody up. So they didn't. They continued the equations. They did the insane. They continued to expand the equations out to an infinity. To no avail. The equations never came back together again. The equations never came back together again. The conclusion was that there must be exactly 10 or 26 dimensions. The problem? Which is it? And why isn't there more than 26 dimensions? Everyone's scratching their heads. The second problem is that an enormous amount of energy is required to test this theory. Hence CERN. Hence why they had to revamp the thing so it could have more energy. We're going to get there. Be patient, folks. Just be patient. This energy is not yet available. I wrote this paper back in 1999, folks. This is when it's copywritten anyway. So just bear with me. I'm trying to catch you up to speed on the last 20 years of history. Oh, so anyway, the energy was not yet available, so we can't even begin to experimentally prove or disprove this theory. That's why they built CERN, folks. This is where the debate of the greatest minds of our world begins. We are no longer looking for the, quote, unification, unquote, theory. Rather, we're looking for the theory of everything. I think everybody's familiar with that term by now. I think Stephen Hawking's the name of his movie. Anyway, so another quest. My battery's about to die. Wonderful. Another 14. Anyway, another quest is to determine the geometric shape of the universe. You're looking at it. You are about to read how the Bible, well, I'm going to read it to you. You're about to read how the Bible not only describes the moment before the beginning of creation, but it also gives the geometric shape of it. And one of the most advanced mathematical logarithms and physical constants in the entire universe. Using the Bible, and the geometric shape of the universe. And the battery, God, I can't believe this. Battery dead. Well, the paper's not dead. Stay tuned for part 2. CERN for Dummies.